This is a Heyward-Tuck Stories recording of Some Talk of Monsters. Book 1, An English Heritage, copyright Jack Heyward-Tuck. Chapter 1, Part 1, In Search of the Teenage Primitive. It was during Kip's audition when the funeral service centered his thoughts again. To see his brother lying dead in a box was something he couldn't get out of his mind. He feared the image would stay with him forever, as would the bitterness he felt towards his mother for making him look down in the coffin. Looking at Hop lying in his casket had erased many of the fun and playful memories he had had of him. But his mother had insisted he pay his respects to his brother. She believed it would help her son to grieve. It didn't. Kip, being 12 at the time, was too young to understand. What Kip did understand was his terror at hearing the roar as Hop's body was consumed in the funeral fire. Kip's day had started badly. He had woken at 7 with a headache. "Breakfast is ready," his mother called out as she tapped on his bedroom door. "Don't let it get cold." A small portable black and white television was hissing and flickering in the kitchen while Kip tried to finish off his bacon and eggs. The news was especially interesting this morning, and Kip's ears were metaphorically twitching with excitement. It had been announced how the famous photograph of the Loch Ness Monster was in fact a hoax, and the monster didn't exist. Kip wanted to rib his older brother Hop about it. Hop would have been so disappointed. He loved the monster, and the plastic model on his windowsill was proof of his lifelong devotion to it. But how could he? How could he tease his brother? Kip stared down at his food, dry and cold on the dinner plate. He couldn't eat any more. He felt sick. He saw Hop's image flutter on the varnished wood of the table. A moment later, a shadow came to blot out that image, and Kip watched as the shape metamorphosized into the woman, the faceless Ivy Goodwin Hop had befriended all those years ago. He remembered how Hop had written about Ivy Goodwin's obsession with the Loch Ness Monster too, and wondered if the news had come as a shock to her as it had to him. If it had, he was glad of it. Although Kip had never met Ivy, he hated the woman and her silly belief in the dark arts. He wished he could be in her house to watch her stomping around in a fit of anger. But knowing Ivy from Hop's diaries, she would have decided that the hoax was in fact the real hoax, and Nessie still lives. Kip's mother came into the kitchen and woke Kip from his daydreams. "Come on, Kip. Aren't you ready yet?" Kip was lying on his arms at the table. He looked up and he said, "What do you want me to say?" "Oh, don't be so melodramatic," she said, "and put your coat on." Kip glared at her and groaned. "I wish you'd leave me alone." "Come on, it's freezing out," she said, picking up Kip's coat from the back of his chair. "It's you who wants to go to this art college. You know how I feel about it." Kip rose from his chair, and after being bullied and bundled into his heaviest coat and woolliest scarf, he felt restricted and smothered. Kip started to panic. "Mum, I don't need to wear—" "If you don't want to be late, we have to leave now," she snapped, pulling on her leather driving gloves. The coat felt too tight, buttoned up to his chin. Kip tried to breathe, but his chest couldn't fight against his woolen straitjacket. The air was thin too. He couldn't breathe, not without oxygen. He needed oxygen. Kip didn't want to travel up to the college with his mother. He had wanted to take the train, but she had insisted the day before on taking him in the car, and sensing the look of grief in her eyes, he had grudgingly agreed. The audition for a place on the drama course was set for 11, and Kip was sure he was going to be terrible. Yet Kip had prepared well. "Have you remembered your school report and certificates?" "Yes, Mum," Kip muttered. "I don't think they'll need to check them." "Then perk yourself up," she said. "You'll be fine. Nothing to worry about. You've memorised your monologue word for word." "I'm more bothered about the singing audition," he said. "It's my nerves. My nerves will kick in and I'll forget all the right notes." Kip had, for the last 3 weeks, practiced the voice projection exercises which his music teacher had taught him, and he could sing well. but he lacked the confidence on stage, having had little experience. But the truth that he couldn't act was worrying him. "We tried to talk you out of taking drama, but you wouldn't listen," she said. "Your father's not happy about it." "You'll never be happy," he said. "You can't handle rejection, Kip, and this is what your life will have. Endless rejection letters." "I don't want to hear this, Mum. I'm nervous enough." The reason Kip had decided to take drama as his major was not because he wanted to pursue a career on stage or in television. It was that, according to Hop's diaries, Maximilian, his brother's best friend at the university, had been on the drama course. Kip had never met this Maximilian in the flesh, so to say, although he felt he knew exactly what type of character he was from Hop's vivid and colourful accounts of their adventures together in the diaries. He had also carefully studied a stack of intimate photographs Hop had taken of the young man. So, as Kip believed Maximilian was in some way responsible for his brother's murder, he thought it better to focus his investigation among the drama faculty. And as Hop had been on the English Literature course with Catherine Brooks and Mike Stewart, two of Hop's enemies, Kip decided on taking literature as his subsidiary option. "A strange couple, these two," Hop had written on his first day after the tutorial he'd had. "Better not get involved with this Catherine. She's a right little madam. I feel so sorry for Mike. He seems a stand-up guy." Hop, Catherine and Mike shared one tutorial with Maximilian. It was the module on William Shakespeare. "The love of wicked friends converts to fear, that fear to hate, and hate turns one or both to worthy danger and deserved death." Kip had read the quotation Hop had copied out many times. In large black lettering it lay, right on the inside cover of the 1985 diary. "Is this a clue, Hop? You are trying to tell me something. Was this your cry for help?" Kip had become convinced that this quote was perhaps a clue to his brother's murder. "Look at you all grown up," Kip's mother said softly, rubbing his knee as she pulled out onto the motorway. Kip searched for a CD to put on to calm his nerves. He found one of Hop's favourites and opened the case. It was still inside, covered in his fingerprints. He took out the disc and he looked at his face in its rainbow-coloured reflection, but it was Hop's face he saw glaring back at him. "I will find out, I will," Kip muttered, feeding the disc into the slot of the compact disc player. Kip thought that he would start by exploring the mansion house. This was where all the art and literature classes took place, and although 7 years had passed since Hop's death, Kip knew there would be plenty of people at the college that would remember him. "A bit of nostalgia," his mother said. "Your brother knew all the words to these songs. Do you remember how we'd all sing along?" "It's Hop, Mother. You can say his name now, you know." Kip returned to his thoughts. "Yes, once I'm settled on campus, I'll seek out those lecturers and I'll find out what I can." The college had meant everything to Hop. He was obsessed by the place. It was also the first time in Hop's life he'd found a friend he could trust and reveal his most intimate thoughts to. So Kip knew, after studying the diaries, if he attended the college, it would help him to piece together and understand Hop's last few years. "Such fun they had together," Kip muttered, staring at his mother's hand as she gripped the gear stick to change them to second. Unlike school, always alone he was at school, and bullied something rotten. Kip switched the music off. It was annoying him. He removed the disc and put it back in his case. His mother watched him in the mirror. How stressed and anxious he looked. She chose not to say anything more, fearing it would lead to an outburst, but she knew at this moment Kip was thinking of Hop. 2 cows grazing caught Kip's eye as the car drove past a farm, and he wondered if he could survive outside, away from the safety of the city. During the daytime he would be okay, but what about after dark? Kip knew bad things happened in the nocturnal world. This was a time for hunters to pounce and kill. It was a time for claws and teeth. But Kip had to make it on his own. He wanted to see and discover Hop's world for himself, bring life, colour and smells to the pages of the diaries. He needed to feel what his brother had felt, and only at the college would he understand. At last he would no longer grieve. "I always knew you were going to leave me one day. It's nature's way, I guess." I'll miss you, Kip. I haven't gone yet, Mum. You'll have me for the whole of the summer. Stop worrying about it. You're stressing me out. I hope you're going to look after yourself and you don't have me to run after you. Kip fell silent. The car turned off the motorway. Another 10 minutes of awkward silence, and they were driving into the village where the art college resided. As Kip's mother drove up the steep slope towards the college entrance, he couldn't help but notice the slogans, hateful words and obscenities sprayed on the walls right up to the main gates. And for the briefest of moments, Kip wanted his mother to slam on the brakes and for the car to turn back. It's all a terrible mistake, he muttered, applying to this college. I don't belong here. It was Hop's college. What am I hoping to achieve? It's nerves, Kip, his mother said softly. You'll be fine. But after seeing all the graffiti and reading those nasty words, Kip sensed how the locals must really hate the students. Kip also thought about how the students would soon find out why he had come to the college, and they'd hate him. They would interrogate him, or worse, they would beat him up. Kip looked out at the window and up at the sky as they drove through the college gates. Even the clouds looked bruised and ashamed. End of Chapter 1, Part 1 of An English Heritage.